how do you show up and give value through content without asking if you're also trying to pay the bills?
Okay, it's pretty easy, but
I'd rather have no money and be a starving artist than...
Matt has just voiced, I think, the opinion of so many creative people I know out there. If you want to scale your expertise and you have knowledge and you are committed to doing the work, I believe a can accelerate this. I'm better than them at every kind of objective measurement. I'm better than them. Why are they getting more opportunities all of a sudden? On today's episode, we're going to talk about personal branding, and we're going to go as deep as we can possibly go. And I have my friend and a person who coaches for the future. His name is Matt Essam. We're going to hopefully persuade him or nudge him towards why he would want to develop a personal brand. I have a different take on it, so stick around. Sorry to interrupt the episode. I want to let you know that I'm starting this community where we're going to help people just like you, experts, authors, and coaches, to develop your personal brand. It's called Content Lab. So for more information on that, just check out the links in the description. Now back to our show. During our dinner in Dubai, Matt said something that kind of got my ears perked up. He's like, Chris, this personal branding stuff is nonsense, isn't it? Now, I don't want to put words in his mouth. So rather than me restate what he said, Matt, take us back there. We're in Dubai. It's beautiful weather, by the way. We're out on the terrace at a restaurant, and it was pretty cool.
It was
What
cool.
was it that you were saying?
I had a few glasses of wine, so
Okay.
bear that in mind as well. I think like the essence of my point was attention for the sake of attention is worthless. I think that was like the sort of key thing I was trying to get across, whether I said those exact words or not.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. And I think you were kind of mid telling me, or it might have been Drigo, or like I can't remember, somebody, you were just kind of saying about like all of the opportunities that were coming your way and like all the stuff that was happening for you. And a lot of it you were crediting to having a big following, right? And having a big personal brand.
Yeah.
And you were talking about things. I think the thing that like triggered me was like you were talking about ways to get more attention, to get yourself out of there. And to me, it felt a little bit like the kind of Big Brother generation. I don't know if you guys have that in the States, but like this thing where people will do anything to be famous. Like they don't care. They'll go into a room and put cameras on themselves or whatever. And I think that kind of like triggered a part of maybe me, which was like, I couldn't think of anything worse. Like I'd rather have no money and be a starving artist than, you know, be on camera in front of a million people doing stupid stuff for the sake of being famous.
Right. Let's pause it right there. I think this is a great place for us to begin what I hope to be is an ongoing series as we dive into this, because Matt has just voiced, I think, the opinion of so many creative people I know out there. They'd rather be starving in pursuit of their art and the craft, to be shilling themselves, to be representing themselves in some artificial way with cameras all around them, the pursuit of fame or notoriety for the sake of it being a pretty hollow pursuit. And I would agree with that general statement, but that's not what we're doing here.
Yeah.
But this is good because so many people are going to hear this. So if you are a person who is an entrepreneur, an artist, a creator, a coach, a strategist, a consultant, some service professional, and you have a deep well of experience, you're good at what you do, then this may be an episode for you to see where you net out on this. So I'm going to ask you to listen with an open heart, a curious mind, and allow the conversation to go wherever it goes. I'm not only saying this to our listener, I'm also saying this to Matthew or Matt. Now, the funny thing is, prior to this conversation in Dubai, and maybe you're all wondering, like, what are they doing on a terrace in Dubai in January? The reason why was we're both at the 1 billion follower summit. Matt lives full-time, part-time in Dubai. And we also met in Sharjah prior to that, where I was speaking on something else. And there you met me in my villa, and we talking and sharing some dates and walnuts. That's a local thing. And we were just talking about like the point of personal brand. You're like, maybe I need to do this. What are the next steps? And so first I want to tackle the mindset. So today the focus is all on mindset and our belief systems, because getting into tactics, what we can do, it won't really matter if you're not really bought in. So if you're ever curious, this is the episode made specifically for you. Now let's get into it. Okay. Now, across the world, there are very talented people in very different disciplines. And you've probably wondered to yourself, why aren't I getting the opportunities that Mary or Joe or Bobby are getting? I'm better than them at every kind of objective, uh, like objective measurement. I'm better than them. I'm more articulate. I have a better body of work. I have greater experience. My team's bigger. We do bigger revenue. We work with bigger clients and bigger projects for bigger budgets. We're more profitable. Why are they getting more opportunities all of a sudden? And then what you used to be able to say, like they're getting, you have better clients, and all of a sudden you see it slip. The slider moves, and now they're getting the better opportunities. They're speaking on stages that you're attending. They're networking with the people that you've read books of. Something has happened, and we're living in a different time and space. So I think the need, let me ask this as a question versus me ranting on the soapbox. Matt, you're old enough to have been in a time in which you're probably a working professional pre-social media. Is that a safe assumption?
Yeah.
Okay. What did you do back then to generate work for yourself? You can list anything that you've done.
Primarily networking events.
Like in person?
Yeah, in person, yeah.
And for people who don't understand what networking events, what would they be like?
So there was a really big thing we had in the UK called Glug, and it was like this creative industries event where they would have like speakers and bring people in with fairly big names, right? And so you'd be in the room with some fairly influential agencies and people. And so it was like any event where I thought there would be either potential clients or potential people that might give me work. Like at the time I was just a freelancer, so like a bigger agency, if I could impress them, if I could get the opportunity to show my portfolio, I would just try and hang out in as many of those places as possible.
Okay. Did it cost money to go to these events?
Not a lot. Like most of the time they were free, or it might be like £10 a ticket or something.
Okay. Okay. So pretty low ticket. And how many people show up to these things roughly?
I'd say between 100 and 150 for like those main ones, but I would do smaller ones as well.
Okay. And how much time would you spend going to these things? Just the physical time there, not commuting time or anything like that.
Overall, I'd say like 1 to 2 hours a week.
Oh, okay. Pretty consistently then.
Yeah, I would try and get to something like every week.
Okay. Do you describe yourself as an extrovert?
I describe myself as an ambivert.
Okay.
Like I need to lie down after those events.
Okay. So you can do it, but you still need to recharge.
Yeah.
And did you often go by yourself or with other people?
I'd often go by myself, but I generally knew people there. Like I knew if I showed up, I would bump into somebody.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that because when you go enough times, you start to become familiar? It was always held the same place or different places?
Different places. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you
and I just
into
knew that it
similar-
attracted like those kind of people. So yeah, if I didn't message anyone, like I'd bump into a recruiter that worked in the space or somebody that I'd seen at a networking event before or something. So I was always pretty confident that there'd be people there that I knew.
Okay. And did you have, as an ambivert, did you develop certain skills that will allow you to talk to strangers?
Yeah, a very particular set of skills. Yeah,
What'd you do?
I did. I think the biggest thing that I developed was the ability to figure out what people needed, like what was important to them. It took me a while because I would be that person who just went to the networking event and someone says, "What do you do?" And you rant for like 20 minutes about what you do and how you help people, and you kind of see their eyes glaze over. And I think what I learned after a few years was that people don't actually care that much about what you do unless it relates to them in some way. So I would typically have like a very short sort of 30-second, this is what I do, but then I would start asking them questions. And even if they weren't an ideal client, I would think about ways that I could kind of deliver value so that I was somebody that showed up in their network as in their mind, like this guy's valuable. He's going to introduce me to someone, or he's going to send me a book or a resource or something.
So you had a net positive experience doing this?
I would say so, yeah. Before COVID, like all of my business was offline pretty much. I didn't really have an online presence.
Right. So this is a place for you to have community, learn from influential people, to be associated, and to also develop leads for opportunities. Yes?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay. Do you still go to these things?
Not so much, no.
How come?
I just kind of I'm a bit more choosy about who I spend my time with and where I spend my time, I guess. And I mean, I do. Like, I'm in Barcelona right now.
Yeah.
One of my clients is running an event tomorrow night. I'm going to that, but it's more to support him. But there's like a marketing meetup, which I'm going along for, but it's not, I don't really see it as like a business opportunity. For me, it's more like a personal, who do I get to know? Um, but I don't feel like I need to go to those networking events anymore to get clients.
So it stopped serving the utility for you?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So what's replaced it?
My online presence, I guess.
Oh, that's
Building a bit of a
fascinating.
LinkedIn following.
You may be making your own argument for me,
Okay.
right?
Right.
So all I'm doing is, for people who are listening, I'm just asking him a series of questions now. Channeling my introverted creative people, the idea of going to a weekly event for 2 hours with people you don't know is so scary they wouldn't even do it. Or they would do it and they would just stay in the corner and go home, like say that was worthless. And they may be able to show up so many times before they like totally give up and say this is worthless, because it does take some social skill, some EQ to be able to be in a room with strangers and to eventually get to know them so that you're not being annoying or weird,
I'd say that
right?
as a
And
compliment.
yeah, for sure. For sure, right?
Okay.
So here's the funny thing. There's If I were to abstract, and feel free to correct me where I may have made an assumption, but for sake of time, you go to events because you're drawn by the ability to network and look for opportunities, and you're willing to have conversations, light and long, whatever needs are, whatever the moment needs, so that you can hopefully meet people that can either set you up with somebody that can help you, or that will help you go get an opportunity or introduce you to something. They can become a client or a referrer. Those are important things. You might actually even learn something if there's a name person. So sometimes, like you said, there's a big name person. Your ability to connect and associate with them is important. You might take a picture with them, you may or may not, but it's good to be around people who are influential, and we can learn lots of things from them.
Yeah. I
And
went to a few events where Stephen Bartlett was talking, and I wish I'd got a photo with him now because he was kind of a nobody back then. And he used to wear this big, stupid, like big rim hat. And I thought he was a bit of an idiot, but now I wish that I had actually made friends with him.
Okay, so missed opportunities there too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because when we come up with people, they usually keep us, right, because
Mm.
you were there when I was nothing, and now I'm somebody, and I remember what we did for each other. That's cool. Okay, all right. How do these people develop a big name, you think? These name people that you refer to that would occasionally grace these networking events.
Usually, these specific events, I'll try and answer your question directly.
Yeah.
They were people who were agency founders or creative directors that had, let's say, 10 plus years of industry experience, and they were coming to showcase some of the work that they were working on. So they kind of had like big name brands in their portfolio, and they were just coming to share their experience, basically.
And how did you even know who they were before they came?
I don't think I did a lot of the time. I think I just
Okay.
knew that the speakers would be interesting because the
Okay.
person who organized the event was like well connected, basically.
Right. Did you remember a specific person that had a big name where you're like, dude, I got to go to this one?
Not really. Like
Okay.
Stephen Bartlett was probably the biggest name there,
Okay.
but I only knew of him because he was from Manchester and the talk was either in Manchester or Leeds. And there was this like social chain thing that he was running, and it had a bit of a reputation because I think he was like
Oh,
in his
perfect.
late teens, early 20s at the time or something. And he was
Dang.
working with he was working with the Nikes and the Lad Bibles. And so his agency was doing something very different to everyone else's, basically. And he was one of the first people to really tap into this idea of like influencer marketing.
Okay. So outside of going to networking events, which eventually tapered off because you were looking for higher quality people to talk to and you outgrew that, that's just normal transitions in life.
Mhm.
Was there anything else that you did to get work?
Agencies. So I approached recruitment agencies and just bigger agencies in general. Like I'd literally go and knock on people's doors and say, "Hey guys, I'm a freelancer. I'm in the area. If you ever want any additional support, do you mind if I just like give you a link to my portfolio or whatever, or just like start a conversation? But one of my main drivers was like recruitment agencies at the time was a big thing, kind of like freelance recruitment agencies. And I just sign up with them. I'd send them my portfolio. I'd tell them my day rate, and they would just call me up and be like, hey, Matt, are you free for a week next week to come into this agency and freelance, basically? And that was a really good way for me to then network and make contacts with the bigger agencies. And then what I would try and do is kind of, make friends with the director or whatever, so I could pick up the phone to him again and say, hey, you guys, have you got any work?
Right. Okay. Just so that people are not saying, Chris, please ask this question. What did you freelance in? What did you do?
That is a great question. A lot of things, basically. I kind of was a bit of a Swiss Army knife. So I started off in front-end web development. Then I moved into UX design. And then I kind of ended towards the end of my, say, creative career. I was more of like a marketing and design consultant, I suppose you would describe it as.
So each time you worked with a recruiter, you tell them a slightly different story as you kind of move through the.
Yeah, I would just say, hey, look, I'm doing a bit more of this now. And then I'd like try and get a project doing that. So when I was in doing front-end web development, I would talk to the designer and be like, hey, like, can I work with you a little bit on this project? And just try and get experience, basically, and just try and add those things to the portfolio. And obviously, like, this was more than a decade ago. This is 15 years ago. So at the time, like, web design and front-end web development were like very disparate things. They were like, you had web designers and you had web developers. They were two very separate roles.
Yeah. So were you doing like WordPress stuff?
Yeah, WordPress stuff. Sometimes just straight up like HTML. Like one of my first jobs out of uni was building like HTML emails and stuff. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So the second thing that you did besides in-person networking event is, I think you said in-person cold outreach.
Kind of.
You said knock on doors, like literally or figuratively?
No, literally. Yeah, like I'd literally go into people's offices.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. You are already now demonstrating a second set of unique skills, because most creative people would never do that.
Yeah.
It's too anxiety ridden. It's too like crazy for us to go and knock on a door of somebody and tell somebody something and not just want to run.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else that you did that was significant in how you generated?
No, just those three things, I think. And the third thing was the recruitment. So
recruitment.
Just calling up. I mean, recruiters, it wasn't as difficult because they wanted people. So there was always advertising. If I met someone at a networking event, they'd be like, oh, send me an email, send me your portfolio. It was a time when like front-end web development and everything was in really high demand.
Yeah. So from the time in which you graduated from uni to you no longer freelancing with the day rate, how long did that last?
For about 4 or 5 years.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So I think you're capturing some part of the audience that listens to our channel or this pod. Okay, this is fantastic. Let's keep going on this. Okay, cold in person. Okay. All right. So here's the interesting thing that I'm noting, and I think the people are already seeing the trap being laid out. So we're attracted to people who are noteworthy, and there's a lot of social proof that goes into that. And the social proof, when I say social, I don't mean social media. I mean like how other people see evidence of competence or expertise. So you're like, well, they're founders, so there's a title there. Then they have an agency, that's another title or label. They have a certain number of people working for them. They've been X number of years in business. These are markers, shorthand or heuristic for something else. And they have a body of work that you can look up and go onto a website. And that's pretty cool. But the one that was most interesting, the one that stood out, was this young, late teen, early 20s guy, Stephen Bartlett, who now is a phenomenon. But there's this word I wrote down: his reputation preceded him. And this is the business that we're in. We have a reputation, and reputations can be very like I always say to people, trust is hard to build and easy to lose. It takes a long time for you to earn trust. It only takes one F up for you to lose it all. That's why, we're always skeptical about people. We're very guarded. So you heard through the grapevine or through the mill, this young upstart kid, quote unquote, is doing some pretty remarkable things. And even though you don't know who he is, people are already talking about him. Imagine what they would be saying about him now if you dropped into a place like this. It would be full of buzz. Okay? That's what
Yeah.
we're talking about. All right.
Hmm.
All right. So the other thing that you were talking about is, well, I don't do these in-person networking events anymore because something else is more powerful, more likely to get me in front of the right people. But I can do it at scale that doesn't nearly require the investment of time anymore. And that's, well, you're like, I'm on LinkedIn. My followership is growing, but it's growing in the right kinds of dimensions in terms of being in front of the people that you need to be in front of to generate opportunities. So
Hmm.
tell me again why you think social media is stupid.
So I don't think social media is stupid. I think attention for the sake of attention is stupid. Like, I worry about the people who have millions of followers on TikTok, but have very little respect. And when they actually they have very little influence. I'll rephrase that. They have millions of followers, but very little influence. Like, when they actually ask people to do something, people don't do it because they don't respect them, because they're like selling their soul to entertain people.
You have a lot of judging language in this.
I'm just being honest.
Well, I always worry about when people say they're being honest. That's almost like a blanket statement to excuse being very violent with their choice of words. But
Okay,
let's get
I'm
into
being
it.
violent with my choice of words.
I think you are.
Okay.
Selling your soul. Like, I don't think anybody's selling their soul. People not respecting them or whatever, or they're getting attention for attention's sake. Now, let's address a couple different issues, okay? Number one, admittedly, there are people out there who want to become famous, and they're young people usually, and they'll do just about anything to become famous. Like, they'll wear very little clothing, they'll do and say stupid stunts, they'll play practical jokes that are not very kind. They'll do anything because they're just trying to figure out who they are in this world. And I think they can do whatever they want. And the test of a relationship and the stickiness of a relationship is when you ask somebody to do something, if they'll do it. So they may have lots of views. They might even have a lot of followers. And TikTok is quite good at serving you content that they think you'll like. And there are a lot of younger people on TikTok, mostly because of the nature of how TikTok came to be. And they don't have a lot of discretionary income. They don't have a lot of purchasing power and all those kinds of reasons. And this was proven to be true to a degree when VidCon post COVID invited some of the biggest TikTokers to come to the conference, because previously it was for YouTube people. And they saw in what they prepared for massive rooms of people, a tiny percent of people. There were more empty chairs than there were people in the room by like a 9 to 10 ratio, like 10 to 1 ratio. So I think it dawned on everybody that number of followers doesn't equal level of influence necessarily, right? It's not always a causal thing. Okay. So, and let's take off the category of people who have no skill or talent chasing fame as a category, as a blanket statement to all of social media, or people who are trying to build influence online. So I
Yeah.
think when I said, do you think social media is stupid? I think I was being reductive, but I was trying to mirror how reductive your thing is. I don't want to do social media or do personal branding because attention for attention's sake is stupid. It's almost
Yeah.
the mirror opposite of that, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like that, because I think the people you and I look up to have a lot of substance, and they've learned also how to create massive amounts of real tangible influence.
Yeah, I agree. I think there are lots of people online doing it correctly, like you
Yeah.
being one of them. And that's why I respect you. And that's why I like being friends with you. Um, so I guess my concern is about how do I do it properly? Like,
Okay.
and how do I not make that mistake? And there's other things as well, and I'll let you guide the
Yeah.
conversation. But as
Right.
an example, like, you're quite introverted, and one of the things that you always say is, I want to create content that's so good that people know who I am before I step into the room, so I don't have to go and make that awkward conversation like we were talking about at the networking events. But in a
Yes.
way, like, when people were coming up to you at the 1 billion followers summit, part of me was like, oh my God, I'm glad that's not me, because I don't know how I would deal with those people coming up to me and like feeling like they know me and I've never met them before. And like, that makes me more uncomfortable than just going into a room and nobody knowing who I am.
Okay. So this is wonderful. This is not a one strategy fits all, because we're very different people. You can just tell by the way we sound and the way we look. We're different people with different goals and missions in life. And my whole thing is, I'm very socially awkward. I do not know how to work a room, period.
Mm.
And instead of learning how, I've given up on that and I've just done something different, which is to become so well known that people will just walk up to me so I don't have to develop social skills. This works for me and it's working really well for me now. So we all are in a way inventing solutions to our own problems. So if you don't like social media, then you work in person networking events where you literally knock on doors, and that works too. So what I want to say to everybody who's listening to this is, first of all, we're going to talk about lots of ideas in our ongoing series on building a personal brand. You don't have to do the whole thing from A to Z. You can just pick parts that work for you, and you don't even have to do it as prescribed. You can change it, you can modify it, you can combine it with other ideas. But I'm hoping some of this starts to unlock what I imagine to be a lot of resistance around this. And we know this is an axiom almost to a point in which it's become cliche. People hire who they know, like, and trust. Know, like, and trust. It's pretty straightforward. So before anybody can hire you, they must know that you exist. And there's a lot of ways that you can do this. You can do it in person, which is high friction, high effort. You can do it online, which is low friction, lower effort, but still effort. And there's different levels of intensity and the outcomes that you can get. Just because you show up to an in-person networking event doesn't mean you'll meet anybody that's willing to give you work. Just because you post online doesn't mean people will just start following you or they'll give you opportunities. Both require a level of intentionality, effort, and consistency in how you show up. Not consistency in the frequency of posting, but how you show up. Because we've all seen this and we've observed this about an acquaintance or friend of ours. Like, I don't know who you are. Like, who are you today? Like, I can't recognize you. Not physically, I can't recognize you, but I can't recognize you because you're showing a personality trait I've never seen in you before. So that trust is hard to build. You've lost my trust. So what we do is we just do this one step at a time. Get known. Hopefully people like you enough to try you or to engage with you. And through that interaction online and in person, they can determine if they want to trust you. Now, in his book, Show Your Work, Austin Kleon writes about this. To be found, you must be findable. And I think there's great wisdom in that very simple phrase. People are making it very hard to find them. And so you could be really talented. You can be very earnest in the work that you do, full of ethics, charge a very reasonable rate for what you do. But you're like, how come my inbox is empty? How come I have no new leads right now and it's stressing you out? It's because we have to master the game of being known. Now, it's great that you shared this because all the things you did, I never did. So pre-social media, I've run a company for many, many years pre-social media. And what we did back then was we had reps. I guess that's the equivalent to your recruitment agencies. And the reps were signed exclusively and they were very particular who they worked with and represented. And so you're as good as the company you keep. So they represent a handful of agencies who are non-competing sometimes. And they would go to advertising agencies, knock on their doors and show your body of work and see if they can generate something for you. And we existed with reps for like 25-ish years for the almost the entire length of our company. We did PR. We hired literally PR firms who would get us press and they would send us copies of everything they got for us. We would also have an executive producer who was doing outbound sales and also doing in-person networking events. He would or she would attend parties, go to functions, opening screeners, do the wine and dine stuff. So I outsourced all that because I didn't want to do it. We would take out ads. They were called advertorial, where you would get an insert into magazines and you would pay several $1,000s to do that. We would take ads out in directories like AltPick or the Black Book, basically directories where advertising agency folks would look through to find who's who. And we submitted ourselves for competitions, won a lot of awards, were published in design annuals. We would try to answer questions sent to us via trade pubs like Shoot and Ad Age or Creativity, basically the magazines and the articles or periodicals that advertising agencies, aka our clients, would read. So we did everything in our power to be in front of the decision makers who were considering who they would work with, who they would hire. That was a lot of work. As you can imagine, it was quite expensive. And there was a layer of opaqueness that I could never tell because we did this, we got that. So the general consensus from my executive producer was spend as much as you can, do as much as you can always, because all those things were opportunities that would somehow manifest somehow. And as an agency owner, the person signing the check, that was wearing thin on me, because I'm like, I think since it's not your money, you want me to spend as much as possible. But you can't actually trace any of this stuff because it was untraceable. And this is how it existed for decades. So I'll just put this out there for people who, whether you're in Matt's shoes as a solopreneur freelancer or a person running an agency, getting work, getting known requires a lot of work. There is no way around this. There really isn't. Now, maybe there's one cheat code. If you're extremely good looking, extremely charismatic, from a great family, living in the epicenter of whatever it is that you do, and your work is bar none like the top quality work, you may not have to do anything because people will just seek you out. Not only are you good looking, from a good family, you're well spoken, and your work is immaculate. Yes. And those are unicorns. They do exist. And they're like, well, this marketing stuff is nonsense. And I would agree with them because they don't need it. But if you're listening to this and you're curious, there's a high probability that you need it, or you're just want to like shoot squirrels with your gun because it's cruel to watch us struggle, right? That's all. Okay, Matt, you wanted to say something?
I am interested in your perspective because I think there is one more cheat code. And I think that cheat code is more relevant now than it's ever been because the world is so noisy with social media and content. And that cheat code is basically borrowing the attention and the trust of somebody that has already built it.
Yes.
And you have been extremely generous with your time and your platform and your audience for me. And I'm just curious of your opinion, because the way that came about was, I think it was Mark, who was in your team at the time, sent you a copy of my book. So obviously writing a book gives you some authority, but I didn't have lots of followers. And I was kind of like, to you, I was basically a nobody. So I'm just curious, like, what made you give me the opportunity to originally come on the podcast and form a relationship with you?
I'm going to say this is going to sound really weird, and people are like, whatever, dude. But I don't look at whatever accomplishments I have or social following as a way of defining myself. I just look at myself as an entrepreneur who's trying to make it in this world. And you're an entrepreneur trying to make it in this world. That we're at different levels, and in terms of like on our journey towards achieving whatever it is we want to achieve. So I am no more important than you, and you're no less important than me. That's just my general perspective. So this answer is dependent on time and place. I'm at a time and place where I have time to talk to you. And so if we're going to have you on the show and to do a pod with you, I'm okay with that. Today, it's become a lot harder, not because I have a higher self-image. It's because there are lots and lots of people now asking for that same amount of time, which I don't have time for. So if I do what I do really well, more people want to be on the pod than not. So now it's become a problem of selecting. So I have to become more selective. Now, I'll share this with you. Somebody reached out and said, hey, I'm really interested in being on your pod or having you as a guest on our show or something like that. And we think you'd be great. And I wrote back, I said, hey, I'm sorry to do this as a criterion for which pods I choose, because I don't have a lot of time. How many downloads do you get per episode? 99% of the time, it's pretty cool. Like, I don't get enough, or I have this, and we're all cool. This person got really offended. It's like, never mind, offer rescinded. If that's all it's about for you, I'm not interested in having you. No problem. Everybody can respond however they want. I think if I'm to be a little judgy here, that person is looking at the world through their eyes only and have really low empathy for other humans. To say, like, because I ask, you therefore have to say yes, or what? That sucks. To say, like, I have some criteria and I have some standards, and I need to know you've been doing this for long enough. So some of my criteria now are for me to be a guest on somebody's pod is, I don't want to be episode 1. You barely even know what you're doing. You might even turn on the mic properly. And oftentimes that's the case. Number two is, okay, you've done the reps, but have you grown at all? Because just because you keep doing pods doesn't mean anything to me. You need to grow. You need to be good at what you do. And what you bring to the equation is an audience. So I give you my time, which I find to be, I define to be very valuable. If I'm to give you my time, which I have non-renewable supply of, then you must bring an audience, because otherwise, why am I on here? Because the likelihood of you asking me something so profound that I see into my soul crevices I've not seen before is quite low. So that's why I was like, that was a really interesting, strange response to a pretty innocuous question. I didn't say I wouldn't be on your pod if you didn't hit this or that. I'm just like, out of curiosity, how many downloads do you get per episode? Which almost everybody answers. And I say, okay, we're too early. Please hit me back up when you're here, because I'd like to do this. I just can't do it when you're this early in the game. Just out of curiosity, you have any thoughts on that, Matt?
Yeah, I just think it triggers people's insecurities around them not being enough. Like they obviously feel judged in some way, which in a way they are being judged. And I think that's okay, because you're asking somebody who's spent years and years and millions of dollars to kind of build their reputation, and you're asking them to come on to your show because you believe that that's going to boost your credibility and reputation. So like there's a real genuine value exchange there. And I think when you question people, they get defensive when they feel like they're not good enough or they don't have the reputation or whatever. I think the people that are just like, hey, yeah, good point. Actually, I haven't done the reps, or I haven't done this, or I haven't done that. They're probably more secure in themselves and what they're doing, and they understand that they're going to get no's, and it's not a reflection of their personality.
Yeah, I'm confused by their expectations, because they asked there must be something, or
well, I don't know if it's their expectations. I think it's just by saying I have criteria and like tell me your criteria, the likelihood is, like, if it was Diary of a CEO, they wouldn't have any problem telling you, right? So the likelihood is that it's not, the stats aren't good, and
we
that
assume,
and that triggers something in them that they're like, oh shit, my stats aren't good enough, my podcast isn't good enough for Chris, so my like defensive self is gonna come out and say, well, screw you then. Like, if you're too good for my podcast, then it's just, it's someone's trigger, right? It's someone's wound, their emotional wound.
Yeah, I think they're like, you can't fire me, I quit. Like,
yeah,
I didn't even get to that part.
yeah,
You can't leave me, I'm dumping you. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Now the thing is, I'm not going on my way to make enemies out of anybody, but I'm pretty sure that person's walking away thinking, what a jerk, what a prick, this guy is full of himself. I'm like, because I asked the question, okay. I don't want anybody to be angry, but I can't control someone's reaction. But I also have to respect my own boundaries. But we'll put that aside, because you had asked this question: why have me? Because right time, right place, right introduction, and it was one of those things. Now you can say fortunate, unfortunate. There's a team; they vet inquiries, and I have more opportunities to do podcasts with people than I have capacity to do it. So it becomes really tricky. And people have all kinds of expectations about being on the pod, like it must do this or that. I'm like, you asked to be on the pod. We're going to do it the way we always do it. So, everybody's the most important person in their universe. And I don't think that's a horrible thing, but let's not use that to treat other people that way. So did I answer your question?
Yeah, right time, right place. And I guess I'm just looking at, we're not necessarily having a debate or a discussion, but I'm kind of in the camp of how important really is personal brand, and you're in the camp of personal brand is super important. So I guess I'm just raising that as why did you pick me for the book? But like you said, that was 4 years ago, or I think 5 years ago now.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah. Right time, right place.
Yes. And everybody has a right time, right place. For example, had you struck up a conversation with Bartlett and took a picture with him and kept in touch, that would have been right time, right place. And maybe that gets chalked up in Matt's journal as missed opportunity, probably. You know?
Although Daniel's good friends with him now, so I'll use that relationship.
Yeah. So my business coach would say this to me. He goes, I think, Chris, in life we have 7 big opportunities. I don't think you're on number 1. You're not a number 7, but we should not miss any more opportunities. And we would sit down and talk about some of the missed opportunities. I'm like, oh, he's right. I just took it for granted. These things will happen again and again, and sometimes they don't. Right. That happens. Okay. Now, so I can be clear. Let's just go into this. You're skeptical but curious about building a personal brand.
Well, what I want is more inbound opportunities. So I would say, like, I'm pretty happy. I'm happy with my business, happy with the clients that I work with. I'm happy with how much money I earn. But I have to do a lot of the outreach, I guess. Like, I'm the one actively building relationships with people. And I don't mind that, but I've been doing this for like close to a decade now, and it would be nice to have more opportunities coming my way rather than me being always the one that feels like they have to create it. And I see people who have a big personal brand, and I spend time with you, and I spend time with Daniel Priestley, and I see the people and the amount of opportunities they have by having that personal brand and that profile. And I'm like, I would quite like some of that.
Okay. All right. So I want to be clear on my position on this. I believe if you want to scale your expertise on a one-to-many model, and you have knowledge and you are committed to doing the work, I believe a personal brand can accelerate this. So I'll share a story, not to name drop, but I'm going to share a little story. I'm at a very intimate dinner with some of the most influential people you could be at a dinner with. And Dan Martell walks in and he's talking about stuff. And he goes, the thing I learned about personal brand is it's a force multiplier. And he said, I was the reluctant, uncommitted one. So as he tells the story over dinner, I've told it at least once before. He goes to his other friend, a guy named Alex Hormozy, and he goes, man, you were so anti-brand. And now you're going nuts on this stuff and you're blowing all over the place. I'm not convinced. Convince me. So over dinner, they talk and he's convinced. And he shares a stat that's staggering about how many qualified inbound leads that Alex has per day. The number is probably higher than most of us have for sure safely in a year or even 10 years, maybe even a lifetime. And he famously said on stage, kind of mid-transition into building a strong personal brand, he said, I'd rather be rich than famous. Somewhere along the way, he realized the two are not two separate ideas. In today's economy, you become rich because you're also famous, because fame allows you to shine a spotlight on something. Now, if you're an empty person, pretty vacuous, like you have no ideas, you're pretty hollow as a person, you'll just shine a light on that. And that's what you were worried about before. But I don't consider that, because I am a person of substance, of experience, of lived experiences, battles won and lost that I can share. I have knowledge to impart with others. And if you're that kind of person, then you will want the light or the ability to control where the light shines. And that's what this is about. And just one side footnote here. If you're my friend, if I consider you my friend, and I don't consider a lot of people my friend, I feel that if I have any ability to influence anybody, I don't want the spotlight for myself. I want to be able to share this with my friends. It's like you have a resource. I'm not trying to hoard that resource. That's why some of my friends are able to do stuff with me, because I'm like, if I can help you in this way, I'd be more than happy to. Just putting it out there. Not for strangers, not for acquaintances, but for people who keep showing up and like, I get the measure of the person. I think you're good enough for me to like give this trust in this relationship to. Okay, putting that aside for a second. So this is not for everybody. This is not for every Tom, Dick, and Harry. Now, Priestley and I, we get into this real interesting conversation one time. He goes, Chris, here's the problem. Everybody who says they want a personal brand cannot have one. I'm like, well, what do you mean? So he goes and explains. He goes, like, for example, how do you know somebody's going to be, how they're going to blow up? I said, well, they have to have a certain je ne sais quoi. They have to have the it factor. So he goes, you see, not everyone who can sing becomes a pop star. And not everyone who's got a auto-tune voice, that doesn't exclude them from becoming a pop star. There's other factors that we don't consider. And there is personality, there's charisma, there's tone of voice. There's even like just physically the way you look, or you have a lot of personal style, or the way you say things and your phraseology, or your point of view and your take on the world is so unique and refreshing or different or funny. There's an X factor, and we can't count on that. All we can say is if you do these things, it gives you the best opportunity to develop that authority that you look for. Now, to your to your question, and we're going to have a debate about this, you want more inbound opportunities. And I have been fairly clear and adamant on this. I'm not an advocate for teaching personal brand to develop inbound opportunities. They happen despite you not trying to get them. And so it's a very different approach. And the reason why I say this is because the vast field of personal brand coaches are all designing their pitches to help you get more inbound opportunities. I don't think what they're doing is called personal branding. I think what they're doing is called social media marketing. They're using the platforms to market to people. And so they're in your inbox, they're on your email list, there's follow-ups. Almost every single thing that they're doing feels very transactional to me. And that's the opposite of personal branding. Because in the world of brand, on one side of the spectrum is brand, long-term, consistent value being delivered to customers or audiences. On the other side, it's called performance marketing, which is good for short-term cash flow. But they're in opposition to each other. And quoting Hormozy again, he goes, you can be a millionaire, you can get everything you want in your life if you're willing to delay the ask, so that the value that you give to people, the transformation you're able to create in people is so deep that when you ask, they'll be more than happy to give. And the longer the delay, like delayed gratification, the bigger the ask, the more likely they are going to buy. And he quite literally proved this a couple of weekends ago when he did his book launch for $100 million models, in which it was reported he sold over 3 million books for the tune of $100 million. An astounding feat. Because according to him, he's not been asking you for too much, and he's created massive amounts of value or transformation for the audience that they're more than happy not to buy one book, but 200 books or 4,000 books or however many books they bought. That is incredible. So the mistake that a lot of people make is piece of content and ask. Give you something, get something. Give you something so that it's very transactional. And if we enter into that kind of model, I'm not the right coach because I don't know how to do that. This is not what I'm trying to teach people. So we have to make a determination here. If you're interested in doing this thing that has no predictable return on investment, that requires you to have an it factor that may or may not pay off for you, because if you don't have it, there's not much we can do.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
You're
all
not
the caveats.
you're not selling it.
No, I didn't sell it.
Then then
And be as hard and honest and as direct as you want to be.
yeah, well, I guess my first response is then like, not so much what's the point, but then like, what is the prize at the end of the rainbow?
Yeah. Okay. When you're an old man in your deathbed and you look back on your life, what moments will matter most to you, Matt? What kind of universal questions or objectives are you thinking about, have accomplished, or things like that? I'm just curious.
I think experiences, relationships, and bodies of work, like books I've written, pieces of creative that I've created. Like I want to write a musical album. So yeah, I think like people, places, and some kind of purpose.
Okay. Let's take this one at a time.
Okay.
When we say people and relationships, I think most people would say I'd like to experience the full depth of being deeply in love and someone have loving me back.
Yeah.
It'd be a sad existence not to have that feeling. And we're not talking about like your parents. We're not a platonic love. We're talking about like an intimate love, to experience that, right?
Yeah.
And so if you go to your grave not having met that person, experience this for any period of time, it could be 10 days, it doesn't really matter, to know the depths. And you're like, I gave myself, I hurt like hell, but it was all worth it. Okay. So that's one thing.
Yeah.
The other thing is that you want to leave behind some kind of knowledge. You said some books, or you've authored things, and now books are like a legacy media, but it represents a bigger idea. And so we're like moving from in our younger lives to wanting to be known, and moving to our more kind of introspective self to being remembered. What will I be remembered for? How did I contribute to society? Did I leave this place a little bit better than I found it? Because I think what would be devastating to all of us is to know that your life did not matter. So mattering is kind of important, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. There's one thing that you didn't say, but I think is probably already on your mind, and it's what almost everybody says. is, did you get an opportunity to know yourself? Because a lot of people do go to the grave like, who am I? Who was I in this life? And was I able to know, to accept or embrace, and to express my truest self? And there's lots of stories when somebody's like 80 years old and they have a health scare and they start to live their true life. They give up the things that they were told to do to fit into society, to be accepted, to be loved, and they started doing their own thing. And then they blossom. So for 85 years of their lives, they weren't living their true selves. And then in that last moment from 86 to 100 or 85 to 101 before they expire, they live the full richness of expressing themselves, mostly because there are duties that are imposed upon us by society, by our parents, our culture, that we're supposed to be doing something other than what we should be doing. And I love this Picasso quote. He says, and I always mix this up, and it's something like, the purpose of life is to discover your gift. And then the meaning of life is to give it away. And I love this quote because it's so profound. Despite not just being one of the most influential artists of the 20th century, he's a profound thinker too. And I think they're related. And I just love that quote so much because we all have a gift. We don't know it yet. We think our gift is what we do for a living. It's not. The gift, believe it or not, is you. I don't want to sound like woo here. We're not going to that space because I'm not woo myself, but yourself, you are the gift. You don't have to do nothing but to reveal yourself. And once you know who you are, then it's your duty, your obligation, the meaning, your purpose is to share it. Because only one person in this universe, this world, can do what you do, and it's you. And so what is the meaning of developing your personal brand according to me, according to Chris? It's to be the you you can be. And this is a journey inward more than it is a journey outward. It's not an outward expression, although there are components of that. It's like, who is Matt? Who is Chris? Who's Daniel? Who is Steven? Who are all these people? And the weird thing is, and you've witnessed this because you went to a workshop, I think we did in London. When I ask people, if you reflect on the people in history, the people who you're most drawn to, the most magnetic, they usually exhibit 2 or 3 of these traits, if not all 3. Number one, they have really high self-awareness and self-acceptance. They have disarming vulnerability about them. Like they're just comfortable in their own skin. There's good and there's bad, and they make it all present to you because they've learned part of the self-acceptance part is there's no good without the bad. So to hide the bad, to hide their struggle, is to deny the existence of part of them. And it's at least half, or maybe it's exactly half. And the last part, I think, is we're seemingly attracted to people who are very self-confident. And self-confident, if it's defined by the dictionary, is something, a belief in one's skill to solve problems. It's not what most people think it is. So you've developed some kind of skill, and that's part of your gift. So these 3 things together is you. I know who I am. I accept and embrace that person. I recognize there's darkness to me. There's a shadow component to me. There's an equal but opposite energy in everything that we do. And then lastly, I've developed some skills. And I believe I can use those skills to solve problems. Fantastic. So we think about characters in history. I won't name any name, but you can fill in the blank and you can use this as a test. Are you really drawn to somebody of substance, somebody of meaning that's withstood the test of time? Like mostly we try to think of deceased people because everyone's a work in progress, right? Deceased people cannot rewrite their bios. So you can say, who are you drawn to? And generally speaking, they exhibit these 3 characteristics. Not just you, but to a larger population. They're usually leaders. They're usually philosophers. They're profound thinkers, and they do these things. And they give us permission to be ourselves. And the reason why they're so attractive, so magnetic, is because we feel calm in their presence. We feel seen and heard and understood. So the whole point of building your personal brand, to use a modern language, is to know yourself, to discover your gift, and to be able to express and share that with the world. That's the point. coincidentally, you do know this already. The scorecard we all should be using is impact. The more lives we can impact, the likelihood, not always, the more valuable we become in influence, in monetization, in terms of opportunities and associations. I'll pause there and throw it back to you.
I love what you said in response to what does it mean to build a personal brand? And I feel like I've been working on those three things for the last decade. And I have had more therapy and coaching and spent money on mentors. And I'm a very introspective person. And I feel like I have a lot of those attributes. I'm definitely not perfect. I could be more of myself and accept myself more and all of those things. I guess for me, there's still a missing piece. There's still a missing piece between all of that, which sounds like great, fun, personal development work, which I'm more than willing to do and continue doing, versus how does that relate to having like a big following and opportunities? Or like, doesn't it? Because then like I'm totally lost in terms of the correlation between personal brand and notoriety or influence or following.
Yeah. Okay. What we can do is we can talk about you and me, because you and I know me, and we can talk about it and we can excavate and expand on anything. I don't always know what other people do and what they're benefiting from. So if there's something specific that you and I can talk about that either's happened to you or me or to both of us, then we can unpack all that stuff, right? And so if we are able to express ourselves in our truest version, it means something. It means that we're not doing it with an agenda except for to express ourselves. This is really important, because if you scroll through your mind and go through the LinkedIn feed, there's lots of people who are quote unquote thought leaders or building their personal brand, but you can smell the agenda a mile away. Enroll my program, sign up for my email list, buy this thing. Almost always. And so for a period of time, I can't say it always, but for a period of time, Hormozi would make content that was a reflection of what he learned from Vanderbilt, what he learned in running Gym Launch, and what he's been able to do with acquisition. And there was no ask. You're like, and people became suspicious because we've been conditioned to look for the ask. And when there's no ask, we're like, what is up? Something dirty, rotten is happening here. And like I said, it's kind of dangerous for us to look into the life of somebody that's still alive, because the story's not complete. We were only seeing chapters of an unfinished book, right? But as a model, if you give wholly without an agenda, you will endear others to you in ways that performance marketing can never do that. I say that performance marketing, direct marketing repels, and branding compels.
I agree. Can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah, please.
So I totally agree, right? Hormozi did do that. And a lot of the people like Stephen Bartlett, for example, like gives a shit ton of value on his podcast and like gets these amazing guests, and the production value is super high. The first thing that comes to my mind is like Hormozi was able to do that because he didn't need money. Like he literally just sold a business for hundreds of millions. So he
40
was
million.
40 million. Okay. So he was able to just create content and give all his lessons away. Like he wasn't trying to sell anything. At the beginning of this conversation, you said me and you are both entrepreneurs, right? And like my definition of an entrepreneur is somebody that has impact, but also looks for opportunity. Like an entrepreneur is somebody that creates new opportunities that didn't exist before, somebody who solves problems in a way that haven't been solved before. And by doing that, by definition, you are creating value, and therefore you can ask for money back, right? So I think I've always like struggled with this disparity between give stuff away for free and do all this stuff and like prolong the ask versus actually building a business and actually being able to employ people and actually being able to like solve problems, because you need money to be able to do that.
Yeah. So I don't see them necessarily in conflict, or any of the things that you're saying is in conflict, because Matt, as a consultant, as a coach and an advisor, can make money. And that's how we pay the bills and keep a roof over our head. And you can build a nice business. But Matt, as a thought leader, is building his personal brand, is about expressing himself. And he needs to do this for quite a long period of time. It doesn't happen overnight. In fact, I'm telling you right now, it's like a 3-year minimum commitment before you actually see any real results. And then all of a sudden, these two worlds will collide. So I say to people, imagine a map of the United States. And the proverbial a train leaves from New York, destined to meet in LA, and LA leaves headed towards New York. We'll just say, because New York is the like financial capital of the country, right? Let's just say that's performance marketing. And then from LA, because we're image based, let's just say, it's a little woo, it's you're building your personal brand. Where the two meet is where revenue happens. Now, if you're an all performance marketing person, you buy $2 million worth of ads, you'll get to LA. You'll get to LA pretty fast, but you'll have done it on the field of capital. You'll be burning money because you pay for marketing. That's what you do. And a lot of people are quite wealthy doing that. On the opposite side is you building personal brand. It's like there's no clients. It's slow. It's a grind. You're like chopping trees down. You're throwing it into the furnace, and it's going, but it ain't going that fast. So one's like a bullet train. One is like an old school steam locomotive. They'll meet somewhere. I'm not an advocate for 100% one or the other. And the formula just depends on the person, where they're at. So I'm like more like an 80-20, 80 in the personal branding, 20% of performance, because eventually you can accelerate some of your success. But when Alex says he doesn't need to make money, he sure is making a lot more money than a person who doesn't need to make money.
Yeah.
Right?
But he didn't have a personal brand before he made money.
No, he just did a lot of work.
Yeah.
Just like me.
Yeah.
I did a lot of work running my agency when no one knew me from Adam, right? And I wasn't on social. I wasn't doing quote unquote thought leadership. I wasn't making YouTube videos. I wasn't on Instagram. Just an old school talking to clients, doing good work, managing my team, showing up every single day. But see, here's the thing that we can learn. See, I think like any of these great philosophers, they have somehow either met their need for survival that they can think of bigger issues. So when we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they've already mastered the bottom 3: food, shelter, safety, belonging, community, all that kind of stuff. They're moving more towards like, who am I and what is my human potential? And when they figure that out, they're learning about themselves. And when they learn about themselves, they have come to some kind of epiphany. I've been slowly looking into different religious and non-religious characters or people in history, and they almost always seem to come to the same conclusion, whether it's from Christ, Lao Tzu, Confucius, Buddha, Plato, Socrates. This kind of like richer way of looking at the world in your life that transcend the need to make money. And they do go to their graves knowing who they are, knowing that they've made great impact, and they think hopefully feeling loved and being loved, or loving and feeling loved. So I think when we're just in the grind, like, is a person who's literally working in a coal mine right now thinking about building their personal brand? No, because you're just thinking, how do I pay for formula and diapers? So it's the activity of the people who are in a place of privilege. I'm not saying because mom and dad gave you a lot of money, but because your need to sustain or subsist is no longer necessary. And then it brings you this higher truth, this greater purpose, and you can make greater impact. Now, relating back to Hormozi, he used to say this: I make content, I'll never sell you anything. That's a promise. Depending on who you talk to, he's broken that promise a couple of times already, because he's asking a lot now. So if we use the most up-to-date data, and then we're going to stop talking about Hormozi because and it's my fault. I take full responsibility for this, because I should speak about what I know, is perhaps he's one of the most genius marketers that's existed in the last, at least in this generation. Because what I found really interesting in his pitch, the one he did recently for his book, $100 million offers or models, is that he goes, here's what I've been doing the last couple of years. And he was collecting massive amounts of social proof. And he said, this book was already written. It was actually the first book I wrote. And so he may have figured out his 5-6 year plan, how he's going to go from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. And it'd be diabolical. A stroke of marketing genius prowess on a scale we've not seen before. And he was able to pull it off. So I was sitting there reflecting on my own life. It's like, if I want to have $100 million 24-hour period, I need to be collecting social proof, helping people while asking for nothing. So when I do make that giant ask, it's available. Because everyone who does build a giant personal brand does have a really big ask. There is some light at the end of that tunnel. Simply put, you could just sell more of your books. Or you can launch a TV network or a vodka brand or some spirits brand. You can do that because you've earned the right to do that.
This conversation didn't go where I thought it was going to go. I feel like
Where's
my
it
head
going?
is, well, it's good, but just like, yeah, it's not how I was thinking about personal brand, I guess. Like that's not, which is interesting. What an idea that's coming up for me is something I actually heard from someone we both know, Taki Moore, which is this idea of give in public and ask in private. And I think there's a potential solution to like those both running those things simultaneously. Like your personal brand is like give, and then people are like, oh, this person's interesting. I wonder what else they've got. And there's some free stuff. And then once they're kind of on your email list, or once you have their details, there's more of an ask, or even you could go a layer deeper where it's like there's still free stuff and you invite someone to a call or a conversation, and then only there's an ask where there's a clear value proposition, for example. So like it's like 80% give and then 20% ask, but the ask is always done in private.
Yeah, I think that's a model.
Yeah.
But he's removing the agenda from the content. He's not gatekeeping anything. And I think the way this works is, if we give so much, the level of appreciation and trust that's being built leads us to something else, a genuine curiosity to be able to repay the person back. If this is the free stuff, what does the paid stuff look like? Or more conversationally, how do you make money? Oh, by the way, I do help people do X, Y, and Z. So if your content is so good, you no longer have to ask. They'll ask how to buy. And there's a Marty Neumeier quote in here somewhere, which is, people hate to be sold to, but they love to buy. And so if you look at the vast amount, the majority of quote unquote personal marketing thought leadership, it's asking in the piece of content itself. And we're not that stupid that we can't see an advertisement when we see it. We're not that dumb. And the real question is, if you had no business, would you still be making content? And that's the truest test of, are you doing this for the right reasons? And I think the old media, legacy media, is to write books, but we're just kind of writing a page or a chapter at a time in public. I'm thinking about things that might help you. I've organized my thoughts. I'm going to distill it down into ways that are very snackable. It's not a full course meal. Just have a bunch. You're in between things. You're waiting for the kids to, pick up the kids from school, or you're between meetings and someone's delayed. You would just read this thing, or you would consume it. And then you start to build this relationship. I just wrote this thing down. I think this conversation is not where I thought it was going to go either, but I'm starting to like understand myself better too, by the way, which is, I think in a way, personal branding is the art of making strangers fall in love with you. And you don't get people to fall in love with you by asking them for stuff all the time. So when their feelings of love, this is platonic love, by the way, is they want to repay you. And this is where all the opportunities come from.
That's pretty powerful. And it kind of reminds me of the synergy of like a romantic relationship where like, you give value, you impress someone, you take them on dates, you plan nice things for them.
Just a courtship, isn't there?
Yeah. You have this period of getting to know each other and figuring out whether you have the same values and the same goals in life. And you only ask them once. You ask them to marry you, or you ask them to move in with you, or you ask them to be your boyfriend or whatever, right? It's like you ask them that once you've got to know them, once you feel like they're sincere, they're the kind of person that you want to be around. So it's a pretty powerful idea.
Yeah, and let's think of the opposite. I hate to make it so crass, everybody, but you're touching on something. There are a lot of parallels here, obviously. But to make it really crass and crude, is if you want to have sex, you pay for it. There's no
Do you?
courtship. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's
Taken out of
transactional.
context, Chris, you've got to be careful with that quote.
No, I'm just letting people understand how this works. It's a transactional relationship. They get money, you get what you want,
Right.
and that's it. And performance marketing is like that. You
Hmm.
pay for the attention, you get what you want. You got their attention or the revenue, and it's transactional. No one owes you anything. And I talk about this. I've talked about this before. When you buy something and you receive a service or a product, the transaction is complete. You may feel grateful. Sometimes you're guilted into believing you must tip or something, but the transaction is done, right? We're done. And I love cultures that there's no tipping. Charge a fair price. We're done. And then what that person does with that money that you pay them for above and beyond, you start to feel emotional about it because you're like, I didn't pay for that. And there's no expectation, nor it's actually cultural not to give a tip. They'll feel insulted if you do, but they're doing this because of love for the craft, not for you, but you'll start to feel that emotion, even though you know this is a place of business and it happens. Like, I'll tell you this. Somebody's washing my car. Let's just say, for example, the tip's already included, so they already know. So everybody's clear about this. They're washing my car and they're about to give it over to me and they see something and he goes back in there and he starts scrubbing it out. It's like, I'm sorry, give me 3 more minutes. I'm like, I feel a little like goosebumps or like hair on my neck. Like I'm appreciative of humans to go the extra step. And I'm a stranger to you. Never see me again, probably. I don't even know your name, but I think that's pretty cool. Or someone in the subway, you look lost. Let me show you. They stop what they're doing. And it's just that human kindness. I think in a world now where we're just bombarded with negative imagery, just take us back to the core of like our human existence. And I think that's wonderful. And so when we give to people without any expectations, without an agenda, I have to imagine on the other side is a person who's feeling something like the way I feel, because I cannot be the single person. And in fact, I know this is true because the waves of messages that I get online, either on YouTube or in my DMs or LinkedIn, somebody saying, man, this thing really broke it through for me. Or you helped me do X, Y, and Z. I have this life because of you. And so far, I've not figured out how to ask for it back yet because I'm not the marketing genius that Mr. Hormozy is. But there will be an ask because I do need to make money and I want to do this at a much, much bigger scale. That's all.
Hmm. And so would you say to somebody who hasn't met their financial needs that they should forget personal branding?
I think they should do it in parallel.
Right.
Because the minute you start doing it is not the minute it works. It takes a long time to figure stuff out.
How do you
Right.
do that in parallel though? Like from a really practical perspective,
Mm-hmm.
like the only people I've seen do it and make it work, the person that springs to mind is Russell Brunson. And the reason he springs to mind is because he performance marketed his way to a personal brand. Right.
Yeah.
So, how do you do it in parallel? Like, how do you show up and give value online through content without asking if you're also trying to pay the bills?
Okay. It's pretty easy. But speaking of Mr. Russell Brunson, last I heard his business is not doing well. And he's built a personal brand. His reputation isn't sterling. So there's some questions about that. Now, that's the end of like the hearsay. I want to talk about that. So when we see that somebody's associated with something, when we dig a little deeper and the people that know the people who know, then there's then certain things come to the surface. And I just want to put that, not throwing shade on anybody. I'm just saying, okay. Now, if you are, let's go to, maybe we'll talk about you specifically. What is a service that you want to provide to people that you'd be thrilled if you got more opportunities to do that?
What is a service that I want to provide to people that I'd be thrilled if I got more opportunities to do that? I would say something like being paid a reasonable amount to run a workshop or a talk or something somewhere in a place that I would quite like to go with people that I would quite like to hang out with.
This is perfect. Let's narrow it down. You wanted to do a workshop or you want to do public speaking? They're a little bit different animals.
Okay, let's just go with the easiest one, in your opinion, based on the fact that you do both?
I think public speaking is easier to do than run a workshop.
Okay, let's go with public speaking.
Okay. So you want to be paid a reasonable amount. Let's put a number on the reasonable amount.
I want to be paid at least £5,000.
Let's
and I
convert that
want
to US dollars. Is that like 7,500?
Yeah,
Eight
let's say 7,500.
Okay, that's good. It's a good number.
And I want my travel expenses and everything to be covered.
Of course.
As well. Yeah.
Okay. All right. This is perfect. And you would be mostly making the selection based on the city you get to go to, because you want to be like living in this fully digital nomad style.
Yeah, I would want to
it's a good life.
Yeah, go there and spend some time there and hang out with some cool, interesting people and do some stuff while I was there. Okay. So I would get the flights paid, but I would probably do something so that I could be there for a month or a few weeks or something.
Yeah, and depending on how you lived, how economic you lived, that 7,500 can go a long way. So it could just, okay, you put me in a nice hotel, but I'm going to go get an Airbnb or something, and I'll live the rest of the thing on a couple $100 a day, and you'll be great.
Yeah.
Until your next gig.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay. So you want to develop a lifestyle business around sharing your knowledge and someone being able to pay you this amount. This is perfect. I know how to do this.
Okay.
Okay. Now, rather than me give you advice, I would love if you ask me a question, and then I will give you an answer to, and then I'll start to figure out where your head's at.
Okay.
We have a clear objective now.
I like the business I currently have, and I want to continue building it, and I want to build something that would allow me to do that anyway. So travel and have the life that I already have, but just minus the public speaking. So my question to you is, if I start focusing on public speaking, do you think it's going to deviate from my business right now? Is it going to make it harder for me to do that? Because, yeah, well, let me just caveat with the, if you were coaching me right now and you said, well, what do you actually want? Well, what I want is basically what I have, but the idea of, you said what service do you want to sell that you'd be really excited to do? The idea of somebody paying me to come and do that and doing it to somebody else's audience is quite exciting. So my question is do you think I can do both, or am I building a public speaking business rather than building a coaching or consulting business?
Okay. I think they can work in parallel and they're compounding. So we're not trying to build two different lives.
Okay.
Because my assumption would be the thing that people are paying you to do public speaking around is related to your area of expertise.
Yeah.
Naturally. So the more that you do consulting and coaching, the more expertise you develop, the more case studies, the more stories you have to share.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then if we're going to make some assumptions here, because otherwise it's oh, I'm teaching people how to shoot archery. I'm where'd that come from? I don't know that. Okay. This is cool. So generally speaking, if we look at through the lens of an event producer, and they have a selection of people that they're going to book for their event, and we're talking about roughly about $10,000 of value here, because a flight, a hotel or something, give or take.
Yeah.
So we're just asking them to part with $10,000. So what you have to do is you have to be able to deliver in their mind more than $10,000 of value, and then it's an easy booking.
Yeah.
So if you were putting your shoes or yourself in their shoes and being super empathetic, what do they want to happen when they're considering who to book?
They want people to show up. So they want it to be
Say
easy
that more plainly.
They want to sell more tickets.
They do.
To the event.
That would be the number one criteria, I believe.
Yeah.
What's another thing that you think?
They want people leaving that event talking about the event so that the brand reputation compounds.
Okay.
They want
positive reviews.
They want positive reviews. They want people to have a really good experience.
Yeah. So how I was translating everything you're saying into much more tangible things. They want to just sell tickets.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know how people have an experience until they leave a positive review, right?
Yeah.
Or testimonials.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else you can think of?
They want to make money. They want to make a profit.
Okay.
They don't want to do it at a loss, because you can sell tickets and still not make any money, right?
Right.
So they want to make a profit. They probably want to get some press coverage. They probably want to see their event in some magazines or some online articles or some blogs, or they
Yeah.
want to see people talking about it.
Yeah. Social impression, something like that.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Not that I can think of right now.
Okay, I just wrote down one more,
Okay.
which is like I'm breaking my own rule, like prestige, because the event producer is often I hope this doesn't come across wrong, like a nobody,
Mm-hmm.
but now like, oh, I got XYZ to speak and I'm having dinner with them, and so they're building their network of influential, prestigious people. The people are not prestigious, but the event is prestigious. It's seen in a high level, and this is important for them.
Right.
Okay. So I happen to know some event organizers, and I get to know them really well. So I learned how to make decisions. It's pretty straightforward. The question they usually ask is, will my audience know who this person is?
Hmm.
And how hard is it? Are they an asset or a liability? And so what they'll do is they'll quickly scan social media. It's the way that they can do this. What's this person like? What's their speaking style like? Are they engaging? How much of a following do they have? Because in their mind, they're doing social media math, which is, well, if they have X number of followers, some percentage of their followers will show up. That's not true. And will people feel really jazzed, excited because XYZ is speaking? So when you said you went to this networking event for years, when there was a name, you're like, wow, this is pretty awesome. Otherwise, you're just showing up because you knew they're going to select good people, but you had no idea.
Yeah.
Right. So we understand this now. And when people post content and their energy isn't great, and I don't mean energy like exploding on the screen, but just their overall energy, their vibe isn't in alignment with what the event organizer is looking for, they pass them. They pass on them all the time. And I feel like if I care about the event organizer, one of my jobs unofficially is to help them find interesting, diverse voices they would never consider that their audience would fall in love with. But the problem is they don't pass the whole "does my audience know who they are" test.
Right.
Now we can start to see why this matters.
Hmm.
So one of the gates that you have to overcome, or the moat that you have to climb over, is, do I have a following where I become an asset? Because you'll know they have named speakers and then they fill in the rest with non-named speakers, because like these three people. So if I said, oh, Gary Vaynerchuk is going to headline, people are like really excited, including other speakers. Because then they can say, I spoke on the same stage as Gary. Even though there's literally no other connection besides physically you stepped on the same carpet.
Yeah.
Right? But that's important to them. So prestige, association, and can be summed up with the word status. Status matters way more than what we think. In fact, I put status at near the top of the pyramid in terms of Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
Only to be lower than identity, like who am I? Okay. So your primary concern is to create content that builds an audience that shows up and your numbers grow, and to do it in a way that's energetically aligned with the market that you're going to ultimately serve.
Yeah.
So we know if we were just to do a quick amount of research in terms of conferences, you need conferences that are going on all the time from different people, but in a vertical that 400 to 2,000 people show up, because then the economies work for them. So if it's for 50 people, it becomes really hard. It's not impossible, but there are few of those then. So anything that's related to marketing, to sales, possibly to branding, is in demand. And we have to add the fourth one, which is probably in the most demand, is AI. So if you do marketing and AI, you've doubled up on two verticals, and you're getting some kind of weird superpower now. Okay. So that's how you would do this. You need to create content that builds a community and audience foaming at the mouth for you. So much so that the audience starts to demand the event organizer book you.
Yeah.
And then when you show up, you have to then deliver the goods for the rest of this stuff to work.
Hmm.
Now, here's the thing. Here's another thing that a lot of public speakers do not know, or aspiring public speakers don't know. Other event organizers and producers go to other events to recruit. I didn't realize this early on. So I'm like, oh, you work for a rival, you run a rival organization. Well, this person is vetting them for them.
Hmm.
So they're just like cherry picking. It's pick of the litter, right? This person's good. That person's great. The rest I don't care for. And they just come up right to you and like, hey, I run XYZ. Love to have you. What they're saying is we want an encore of this, but for our audience.
Hmm.
So once you get to the first one, you hit it out of the park, there's a high probability that other people will ask you, including the original event organizer, because they have more events to run in different cities. Usually how it works.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
What, if anything, there that you would like to go deeper into?
The thing that's coming up for me is how to know what content to really create, because when we talked about personal brand, it feels to me like the most powerful content is the content that is most in alignment with your personal brand. Would that be fair to say?
There's a lot we have to unpack there. The most powerful content is like if we just replace the word personal brand with you, the most powerful content is aligned with you, your values, your beliefs.
Yes.
Then I would say yes.
Okay. So I sometimes struggle because I feel like the content that people want is around getting more clients, sales, marketing, etc. The content that's most aligned with me is maybe a little bit woo-woo and like mindset and like stuff that, yeah, I just feel like when I've tried to talk about that stuff in the past, it hasn't got that much traction. And also when I listen to the market, it's like people aren't really talking about that much. Like my clients are coming to me and saying, we need help finding more clients and more work. And so again, there's this like disparity between if I won the lottery, what would I talk about? What would I write about? What would I do? Would probably be slightly different to what I'm talking about and doing now.
Yeah.
Because one I think is maybe interesting and over time I could build a following around, and it's like stoicism or something that could have longevity, but in the short term isn't going to help me get more clients because it's not solving a real like urgent pain point in the market right now.
Right. That's why we have to segment our two energies here, our energy to make money and our energy to figure out who the heck we are in this lifetime.
Hmm.
And every time we bring those two back together, then conflict once again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just sketched this out. It's not premeditated, so I don't know. But I generally think there's three things that determine whether or not a piece of content gets a lot of views or not.
Okay.
Well, number one is the format. Like, is it one light, two chairs? Is it man on the street? Is it whatever the format is, right? Number two is the subject of what you're talking about. And number three is the delivery of this. So if the subject is mindset and a little woo into spirituality, but the format is incorrect and your delivery is incorrect, it's not that the world doesn't want to see that. So you just got to solve the other two things. Now, if you talk about marketing with the mindset or woo, that becomes a niche. And niches are quite powerful. You double up on something. Okay. And so we have to play with these three things because this is why it's like a combination. You have to get all the digits in alignment. Otherwise, the lock won't open.
Yeah.
And so here's the weird thing. First, go into the subject, like the thing that sets your soul on fire. Because we're not going to change that. We're going to force or find our way through the format and the delivery so that it works.
Right.
Because anything that's a subject that you're not deeply passionate about that doesn't set your soul on fire is not something you're going to do long term. We already know this.
Mm-hmm.
It'll feel a lot like work, and then you don't need another job. You already have one. At least the other one pays you. So the last thing that you need to do is to go on a 3 to 5 year journey of self-discovery only to hate everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
For no guaranteed outcome. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So first we got to get in touch with like, who do I want to be in this world? And we also know that people who speak on philosophy and spirituality have gazillion followers.
This is true.
So it's possible. Okay. And these are not just followers. These are almost cult-like followers that will do almost anything you ask them to do. Okay. So what we do is what things that I help people do is figure out, well, what is the subject we want to talk about? And it takes a while to kind of figure it out. And then we know we can work on delivery. So how are you presenting this? And then lastly, it's just the right format for it. And we got to play with the variables. And it's a complex puzzle to solve.
But once you find it, you find the formula that works, right? And you've got a Jerry Springer, you've got a Diary of a CEO, you've got a,
Yeah. There's a guy who's super nerdy. I don't know his name, but he's like an internet detective kind of thing using math and physics. So
not Lex Freeman.
Not Lex Freeman. No. It's probably a person you don't know.
Okay.
He's a younger guy. I think he's not American, but he'll say like, he watches this video where there's a giant swing, like a mechanical swing, and the person goes through it and their shoe flies off and hits the person in the camera.
Right.
He goes, is this possible? He goes, based on the geometry that this photo, I tracked it onto. He talks really fast and he's super nerdy. And he figures out at the gravitational pull, and I measured this and it's 34 meters, and the force in which this is to be traveled, it would blow her head off. There's no way this is real. It's fake. Right. But he talks wall to wall, and there's like literally physics equations and weird math stuff happening while he's talking. So this is a person who's deeply interested in using math and science. So that's the subject. The delivery he's also mastered in not trying to fight who he is because he's super nerdy. There's no way anybody can actually remember anything he's saying, but it's so entertaining the way he talks about it, because then he takes a breath and he keeps going. It's like the Micro Machines guy who talks really fast. And the format is commentary, react videos to other viral videos. He nailed it. And so I think a lot of people struggle with delivery because they try to fit themselves into somebody else's definition of what you should be doing.
Yeah, and it's why I hate Instagram, because like every time I go on it, everyone's saying this is what you have to do, and there's this new thing where you walk along with a coffee and you point like, you never believe what I just found after 40 years of marriage. Read the comment below, and I'm like, oh God.
So here's the
thing.
Kill
me now. Yeah.
The reason why you're getting those videos is because you're looking at those videos.
Yeah, they do attract you in. Yeah, 100%. But I hate the fact that I look at them. It's like looking at a car crash. It's like you don't want to look at it, but you like can't help it. No,
but you still look at it. You're looking at it on the freeway. I'm behind you like, yo, bro, keep moving.
Yeah.
Stop looking at this. You're holding everyone up. So here's what I'm going to tell you to do. If for some reason you actually follow them, unfollow them.
Yeah. I just deleted Instagram off my phone for now. But
well, that's a mistake, but okay.
Okay.
Once you reinstall Instagram, what I would do is be more intentional and mindful of the things you follow.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you touch a piece of content, you dwell on something, it's going to test you by serving you more of it. And if you were ever to follow me and you kind of look at the accounts I follow, my kids they're like flabbergasted because they're like, Dad, you follow some of the weirdest stuff. Yeah, because I'm interested in lots of different things. And if I see a video that is not for me, but I think there's a good hook or format, I put it into a little save folder, a bookmark, because I'm going to use that to teach a lesson. So I'm now consuming content with a different intention. It's not for me. It's actually for me to help explain to people what they need to do. And so before I would watch it, heart it, and then move on and not pay attention to it. Now I have to save it and sort it into different folders. And so it's becoming a little bit unwieldy. So that's what I want you to think about. Okay. And we can really get into more maybe the next time that we talk. But what I would like to do right now is really just get a really quick reflection. We started at one place. I summarized it as stupid, social media is stupid. But what you're really saying is creating content for content's sake or to be famous for famous sake is a pretty hollow pursuit. No argument on both sides, right? Okay. Maybe some, and I'm glad that you're doing this because I think you're in a different place energetically than you were when we met each other in Dubai, because I see you actually, despite saying I don't want to do this, you're posting pretty consistently on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So where are you post this conversation? Because you said something surprised me. Quick reflection.
Say again. Ask that question
What is
again.
your quick reflection based on our conversation? Because you had already commented that this did not go the way I thought it was going to go.
Yeah, I think my reflection is the personal brand is not about just being in the spotlight and being famous. It's about getting to know who you really are, accepting yourself, and deciding what message you want to leave in the world or what legacy you want to leave in the world. And those three things I've been doing anyway, I think what I've learned from this conversation is it's probably more about accepting more of myself and being okay sharing that version of myself online, which I'm getting better at. But more importantly, really honing down what is the legacy, or what is the content, or what is the idea that I want to leave behind in the world, and that I really want to shout about, and that I don't feel I'm just shouting about because people need help with it, but I'm shouting about it because it's actually really important and people need to know it and they need to think about things in a different way.
Yeah. Okay. I want you to think of it like this. You're a sailor exploring the world in the 1300s or something like that. I just made up an arbitrary date. I don't know. And you're in a boat. And I want you to be careful of the sirens who will lure you into the rocks and you'll be shipwrecked and your whole crew will die. And the sirens are the people who like, do this, talk about this. This is what we want. Here's a hack, point to this, have a cup of coffee. All those things are garbage. What they're doing is they realize that people are superficially pursuing this thing. And so they're giving very superficial tips, hacks, tricks, reporting on algorithms, reporting on trends. They're kind of important only in the sense that you kind of need to know what's happening around the edges, but not to let that be your guiding light. If you're on a journey sailing across the ocean, which is perilous, to find the country called yourself, don't be pulled by those things because they'll look shiny and it'll feel like, you want to deviate from the path. But follow your compass, find your way to your country, and find your home. And this is what I try to help people with. Okay, so at the end of the day, we don't really care about what anybody else wants you to talk about, because like I said, it will be impossible for you to do long term, even short term, if you don't love the subject that you're talking about. This is what I'm deeply passionate about. This is where I think I can provide a different point of view to the world, or slightly different, or at least deliver in a way that's different. And if you start doing that more and you stay out of like what the results are, and you just keep honing that and going deeper and deeper into that, eventually, if you do it long enough, somebody like me will say, Matt, if you just said it like this, you'll have a whole different impact, because I'm not seeing that. It's like, how vocal coaches, like if you just use your head voice versus your throat voice, that's how you achieve that note. And then they do that and the game changes.
Yeah.
So it's not about changing you, but it's about tweaking very small things that can ultimately have a very big impact on how it's being delivered.
Yeah. Love that. Okay. So what's my homework, coach?
Your homework is to figure out what subject you really want to talk about, and that you can see yourself doing long term, and that ultimately is broad enough that people would want to hear more from you in a paid environment. So that's a really tricky set of criteria, like a weird Venn diagram that just came up, right? Because if you're really interested in, I don't know, underwater basket weaving, there's probably not enough people to support that.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, there's enough people to support just about anything.
Yeah.
And here's the weird thing. Let's say you want to talk about some really obscure niche thing.
Let's stick with the underwater basket weaving, because I've never
underwater
seen that
basket
before,
weaving,
so
but you have a gazillion billion followers doing that.
Yeah.
You will not be invited to speak about underwater basket weaving, but you'll be invited to speak about how you did that.
Right.
Which is a tangent to it, but it's, it's close enough that you can get some joy from it. Like, here's what I love to do. And you tell funny stories around it. And here's when it blew up. And here's the daily challenges I have around it. Because people are fascinated by anyone who can do something really well.
Can I throw an idea at you just before we wrap up to see if
Yeah.
I'm on the right lines? Because I don't want to
Okay.
go away. And so the first thing that came up when you said that was this idea of building relationships. And if I look back at the last 20 years of the work that I've done, and especially kind of you reinforced it at the beginning of this conversation, because I've never really thought about it like that. But everything I'm teaching people to do all the way back when I used to design websites is about building relationships with people and maintaining those relationships. And I think, like, when I talk to my clients, what they want is they want better projects, more fulfilling work. But really what that's about is it's about knowing how to manage relationships better so that people give you the kind of work that you want. So is that as a category kind of what we're sort of pointing towards, or does it need to be more niche than that?
I don't necessarily think it needs to be more niche than that, but I have to kind of see this as a work product for me to then say, here's where I would tweak it.
Okay.
It's like I have a story or an idea for a story. I'm like, oh, okay, but let me read a little bit of it and we'll see. Or I have a painting I have in my mind. I want to see it. And so here's where I think one of my superpowers is. When I see stuff, I know how to make stuff better.
Okay. Yeah, you're an editor rather than a creator, right?
Well, I'm a creator too, but when I work with other people,
Hmm.
I know how to make it better.
Okay.
Because usually I reflect on like, how do I do it? Like, what's the difference? What's the gap between these two? Or why isn't this working?
Mhm.
It's like a puzzle for me to solve versus conceptually, abstractly, like, what do you think about this? Right. So I think we start there and we'll continue on, but I'm sure subsequent to this conversation, other questions will pop up. What I'm going to suggest that you do is if you see something that I've done that you're like, dude, what are you doing? What is the underpinnings behind this? Or how'd you get this to happen? If we can do that, then I can speak specifically to the things I've done.
Okay.
Right? Like, how'd you get this gig? Or why'd they book you? Or what are you doing behind the scenes that no one knows about as it relates to this thing? Because there's a lot to unpack there. But,
Hmm.
you know, I haven't had the opportunity to have these kinds of conversations. So this could be it.
Okay. I can do that. And then in terms of, like I've got probably 3 weeks now between when we speak again.
Yeah.
And you said you want to see something more specific. So you first said you need to get the topic, then you need to figure out the delivery, and then you need to figure out the format, right?
Yes.
So do you want me to, like, what's the tangible deliverable that you would like me to bring to our next conversation to show that I'm actually like moving forwards on this?
Okay. Right now you're writing posts on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So the format's a post.
Yeah.
It's probably text with an image.
Well, it's mainly like clips from the podcast, but yeah.
Okay, so whatever, however you do this, so it's basically word and image. So that's what you're doing. So I will look at the image and I will look at the words and I will respond to that. Now, it'd be helpful if you did a bunch of them. They're like, this one performed, this one didn't. I'm confused,
Yeah.
Chris.
Okay.
So I think topic, subject, something like thematically, I want to speak about this. I want to be known for this. This is my jam.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually this, but something, or this instead of, or something like that. Right.
Okay.
I want to talk about this, but do it in a way that's mindful or connected to religion or whatever it is so that we know. So it's just a general subject category, because underneath that are all these things that you can talk about.
Yeah.
But they all taper into that. So for me, taking me, for example, right now, I still speak about a lot of things, but I'm being much more intentional about talking about personal branding as it relates to my own philosophy on this. I'm creating lots of content around that because that's what I want to be known for. And I feel like I can serve my two masters, the creative community and professionals who have no creative bone in the body, but aspire to be creative.
Hmm.
And those two worlds overlap nicely. So I can swing over to the left or the right and it serves me well. Okay.
Yeah, it makes
that
sense.
would be my thing.
So if I got like a really high level topic such as communication, and then I did some subcategories like building relationships, sales, marketing, and then just like mapped it all out, and then we could work together on figuring out what's the thing here? Like is there anything that sits in the middle of all of this stuff that we could be like, that's a topic?
Yeah. So peer communication will be too broad.
Yeah.
Maybe as it comes to like communication, nonviolent communication with a specific focus on tonality, or nonviolent communication based on specific wording and phrasing.
Mm-hmm.
Or I want to talk about how to deal with toxic people and using communication to be a solution to that. It needs to have a little bit more, because otherwise the category is too broad.
Yeah, I get that. But what I mean
Yeah.
is, like, as I'm trying to figure this out, is
Yes.
there another process or another exercise you would advise me to take on this, other than just like brainstorming?
No, I would like for you to think about it, think about your
Mhm.
category, and actually just make stuff.
Okay.
Brainstorming's cool, but that's an invisible process. You do that, and then I need to see work product.
Okay. So come up with some ideas of categories, put some content out there, and see what
Put
lands.
some content out there, and
Okay.
don't even, just like from a distance, see what happens, because this is not about like letting that drive anything right now.
Okay.
Okay, just put stuff out there, because it takes a while for you to figure out, this is how I want to show up, this is my voice. I think Miles Davis said sometimes you have to play for a long time before you learn how to play like yourself. So this is you playing for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you develop personal style. Okay?
Sounds good, man.
If you've enjoyed this video, I want to remind you about Content Lab, something that I've launched, and it's designed to help coaches, content creators, and authors just like you create content that consistently cuts through the clutter.